latest pictures that we have from the Emirates Stadium ahead of Arsenal against Everton live on Sky Sports tonight. And many fans turning up to make the strength of opposition very clear at their club.
But football without fans is nothing. You play a football match without fans, you've got nothing.
And this great communion between players and supporters, all one now. Brilliant atmosphere here.
It can be the greatest game in the world. If there are no people there to watch it, it becomes nothing.
Tears, the terraces, tears on the field. I'm sure tears in the dressing room as well.
Testing, testing. We good?
We're good. So, who are you?
I'm Falah Rashidi.
I'm Ben Lang.
And we started playing number 12. We started playing number 12 in response to the pandemic, where fans weren't able to go to the stadiums. We felt that this represented the growing disconnection that's been happening before the pandemic of fans with football. The football community is suffering, and we wanted to act as designers and try and make a difference.
To me, football means everything. It's the basis of a lot of relationships I have with a lot of people. It's my earliest memory. It's what I do in my spare time, what I follow. It's something I'm really passionate about.
So what does it mean to be a fan?
To be a fan, it means following your team through thick and thin, wins and losses, unconditionally, being part of a community that's bigger than yourself.
To be a fan is to live for a history of moments, and it's in the sharing of those moments that brings people together and builds that community which we all value.
It's about nostalgia, isn't it? And identity. And one thing football fans have got, that's why football is so tribal, is identity. And you put all of your story in that sense of belonging. And I think if you start losing that, it becomes like easy to abandon, doesn't it? It becomes easy to discard and you can move on.
We feel disconnected because we don't feel involved. Fans aren't involved in anything, and when you're at the game, you participate. When you're there in the stadiums, when you're there supporting your team, singing, making noise, you feel like you're making a difference. But when you're stuck at home watching through a screen, do you feel like your shouts and your screams do nothing, and it almost feels meaningless? And for something which means a lot to all of us, that's a big concern.
The disconnection with the fans and the game is more prominent now than it once was, as the game has become a lot more globalized with its outreach, and the communities that actually built it aren't as important as they once were. There's a glaring contradiction between fans and football's material essence being money. It's this enormous amount of money circulating around football that's dictating the evolution of the game rather than the fans.
22 FIFA World Cup is Qatar.
Here we go, Seth.
The value that's being delivered for these 3 seasons will be £5.136 billion.
The more they charge, the more they're pushing the fans away.
There's another generation of fans being priced out of the game. Every single most modern football clubs now are just so sanitised. They just go away from its roots massively.
So it's important for us to establish why fans are so important and their meaning within the context of the game. Subjectively, we feel we're disconnected, we feel less involved, and we feel like we do make a big difference, but we more importantly need to objectively show this. So let's start with some data. The data shows clearly that fans have a massive impact on the game, because once they're removed, home advantage completely goes and away advantage improves. Goals scored goes down. Almost all the stats which show that fans have a big influence on the game, more so than other factors like the stadium itself doesn't impact like the crowd does. So I guess the next question is, what is it about the fans which creates that impact? And it's the noise.
It's almost like there's a, an antiphony, a call and response between the player, although it's not so the crowd has a verbal or auditory, response, and the player's response is not, voice or sound, but actually his play. And so you're getting an auditory response to a performative kind of thing.
The supporting song of the fans can create a hypnotic effect. This is a symbiotic relationship, with the energy of the game being played on the pitch. Friedrich Nietzsche describes the emotional effect of music as the rush of togetherness, which happens when we are willing to be part of the crowd. This experience takes us out of the everyday into a shared ecstasy. This is a resolute rapture, a sober ecstasy that can realise the difference between the everyday and the situation, which is a key concept in Martin Heidegger's Being and Time. The situation is what he calls our Dasein. When watching a dramatic last-minute goal on TV, we celebrate it, but remember that moment of moments on our own. We cannot share this moment with the collective community in the same way as if we were in the stands, as we see thousands of people experiencing the same moment in a disconnected network, lacking the intensity and togetherness of the crowd.
So what connects the fans with the players is noise. That's the direct connection. There's no touching, there's no physical engagement, it's through noise. So to study the sound, we visited the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium in North London to better understand how acoustics has an impact on atmosphere and on play. The stadium is specifically designed to harness and enhance the sound and channel it to the pitch so that ultimately the team performs better. So having analysed the data, it's fair to argue that the fan is potentially the superior party, because without the fans, there's no one to view the game. So presence is essential.
Hans-Georg Gadamer claims the spirit of the essential quality of the spectator is their being there present. The spectator participates in the match by being present, meaning they are not just watching it, but are involved. He explains that the spectator sits at an absolute distance. He describes this as a distance that the spectator does not take part in the play, but the necessary distance to watch the play, an aesthetic distance. So the spectator takes part by adopting a theoretical distance from the game. Simon Critchley implies that the relation between this is enacted in drama and as drama, as the distance that must never be collapsed into complete proximity or identity. This could also be said of complete remoteness. We now find ourselves isolated from the play, thus the absolute distance is out of balance. The two-dimensionality of the screen can't match the visceral experience of being present in the space. In atmospheric architectures, Jean Boom states that the spatial phenomena, despite all possible tricks, cannot be rendered adequately in 2 dimensions. The whole fallacy results from our habit of taking the camera as the model of ocular vision. The impression of things being in space results precisely from our indeterminacy of their location. what does technology take away from us? The absolute distance is not achieved, and the interrelationship of the space and the fan is eroded by the application of technology.
In Mihai Csikszentmihalyi's words, flow is a state in which people are so involved in an activity that nothing else seems to matter. The experience is so enjoyable that people will continue to do it, even at a great cost. The biggest contributor to the experience of apathy is watching television, according to Csikszentmihalyi. As previously stated, football without the participation of the fans means play can't be transcended, and therefore the game can become tedious. Even when fans will eventually be allowed back in attendance, the accelerated shifts in the culture of the game and its constant sanitization will affect the atmosphere of games for the worse and make them diluted and monotonous. So the big question is, how can we be present without being present? How can fans participate with the game without being in the space itself? So we're not creating these shared moments, and therefore this current form of mediation doesn't provide us with the connectivity that being a fan is all about. We took a risk attempting to tackle this type of project, as remote user experience is a relatively new field. Therefore, it's harder to gather information on expertise. So we have had to try and build our own expertise and create our new practice. To start establishing our network, we spoke with Campbell Orme and William Schack, who are two experts in the field of remote engagement and experiential design.
Yeah, first of all, connection is the company's mission, and this is why we exist, basically. And the reason why we would love to build these sort of products is to connect human beings. And if you guys are working on something that connects fans, I think that's even more so related to what we are doing. But basically, in terms of what the company is trying to do is to find ways for connecting people even when they're not together, and to sort of enhance that presence that they have so they feel like they're just right next to each other. Instead of thinking like far way ahead in the things that, maybe my grandson would love to use, I like to sort of think, what are the things that not my grandson, but my grandfather would also like to use? So we are trying to think in terms of remote presence, how my people, instead of, connect with each other via a glass screen, and they use other means that is sort of timeless, yet not yet been improved. Maybe we can work together in the future.
So I work within an organisation within Facebook that's called Facebook Reality Labs. Generally, what a lot of those processes will do will kind of organise themselves around convergent and divergent models, which is largely how we work. So you start off with like your inputs, and then you go a little bit broad to explore what these things could do, and then you start to map out what your constraints are, what you're prioritising, and then you diverge down to points. You're trying to get under the skin of talking about remote presence here, like what are the things that connect people? And it's like, what are the constants? Like what are those kind of core human things around connecting? And then how do you zero in on here are all the things that we know that are important to people connecting and watching football. Here's the one that for us is super important, and here's why it's important, and here's why we're going to go after it.
The benefit of using a divergent process was that it allowed us to break down and dissect the components of the multimodal communications and engagement fields. The current broadcasters are too tunnel visioned with their designs for forms of engagement, and we feel a broader range of experimentation is necessary for us to uncover new and improved methods of engagement. Currently, the network that the stadium is located within isolates it from the non-present fans. An alternative network that we propose connects the non-present fans to the live event, a concept seen in Peter Sloterdijk's foam, which is the connection of co-isolated associations.
The prototypes we began to design were a range of tools for engagement, both in the stadium and outside the stadium. Having studied acoustics in stadiums, we found that playing noise out of the speakers during a game can be reductive and annoy the fans already there, so we widened our approach. Our active research began by studying the screen. We analysed how much of the screen was taken up by the fans while the game was broadcasted. This was to understand what visual feedback spaces could be utilised for the fan at home. We also created an inventory of objects found in football to have as a reference for our designs. Having done some initial studies, we moved to designing a variety of potential outputs for the stadium that, when used collectively, could be powerful. Having studied objects used by the fans, we tried to model interactive objects to be used at home to generate output. The GSR sensor was an experiment to measure our stress levels quantifiably when watching a game at home, which could then be sent to the stadium as output. Finally, we studied the movements of fans and attempted to track our movements to also be outputted to the stadium. We thought of using the seats in the stands as a receiver for our outputs and created a range of performative non-working prototypes. Due to our lack of access to the stadium experience during the lockdown, we tried to recreate a somewhat stadium setup to better understand how our designs would function and feel, as we didn't want them to be disruptive or reductive, but to enhance the experience. However, these experiments were lacking that essence of community, and we still believe sound has a part to play.
In order to know how they make progress, you need to know their stories. And when you're trying to get to know people, a lot of times you probably need to talk to them. And the art of interviewing people might be something, you like to dig into too.
Yeah. Pitch them over, get all the research in. Because that'll be the thing that makes your work killer. You're not subjectively going, football's awesome, this is what people are trying to do. You're basically going like, here's what we know, and this is what people are trying to do. And that'll really make your work sing.
To begin the interviewing process to gather more information about football culture and a more contemporary view on where fandom and the football world is at the moment, we spoke with a range of people within the football community.
I don't know if I have the right words to describe it, but it's just like, it's gonna sound so cheesy, but it's like my safe place. Mostly it's social media. Like I follow them on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. I have the Barcelona app. I follow the players, not all of them, but like most of them. I always get emails because of the Barca app, like, hey, you get this Barcelona membership and you have all these amazing benefits and like at the Camp Nou and like for the museum, for the games, you have like discounts and everything. It's just like, I mean, it's awesome, but like I'm not there.
I think it's really important to have activities with the fans. I think all this kind of stuff can really help to keep the fans really happy and also to know that the club or team care for them. You can reach out to more people, and maybe you do, but then the interaction is not like the feedback. It's not the same. You know, maybe you start losing the local ones. At the end, football is like an emotion, and it's hard to transmit those emotions through a mobile phone or the TV even,
It's sort of like more for the build up, like when you're out warming up and like as you're walking out and that, it gives you like a bit of a buzz. It does feel like something's missing, like where the stadium's empty and that, because it's so big.
If it ended tomorrow, I'd happily walk away. And I think football should be really fearful of that. Because if I can say that, then anybody could.
So we decided to reach out to a Sunday League football team that is trying to build its own community and shares the same values that we do. To build this community, we recorded their games, which captured their moments and experiences, which we were able to give back to them to help improve their own fan experience. By doing this, we're also able to understand the way football is mediated a bit more.
We're outside the Emirates, home of Arsenal Football Club.
During the pandemic, the absence of
Let's just bring you some breaking news now, and an announcement is expected shortly on a proposed European Super League, a breakaway league which would upend the structures of both domestic and European football, as revealed by Sky News last year.
It's criminal. It's a criminal act against football fans in this country. Make no mistake about it. This is the biggest sport in the world. This is the biggest sport in this country, and it's a criminal act against the fans. Simple as that.
The kind of commercialisation of it going just that stage further, where it really is out of reach of the working class fan.
To form a Super League for the owners to be more greedy is absolutely abysmal.
This is only the start of something where fans can take control again.
It says to me, arrogance, greed, and we don't care about supporters.
King George's Field homes the leading amateur club in English football. Corinthian Casuals are in the 7th tier of the footballing pyramid and have an unrivalled club history. They were formed in 1939 following the merger of the two great amateur sides bearing those names. The Corinthians previously provided the entire English national team between 1894 and 1895. They didn't believe in professionalism or entering league and cup competitions, as they thought that prize money would incentivise cheating, which was not the Corinthians' way. The club was famed for its ethos of sportsmanship, fair play, and playing for the love of the game. Corinthian spirit, still understood as the highest standard of sportsmanship, is often associated with the side. This spirit was famously summed up in their attitude to taking penalties. As far as they were concerned, a gentleman would never commit a deliberate foul on an opponent. So if a penalty was awarded against the Corinthians, the goalkeeper would stand aside, lean on the goalpost, and watch the ball being kicked into his own net.
Their influence in the game can be seen in the fact that Real Madrid, the biggest football club in the world, adopted the white jersey in their honour. Additionally, they gave Manchester United an 11-3 defeat in 1904, which is a record loss for the club. A notable player who played for Corinthians was Andrew Watson, who was the first black international footballer. In the 1910 tour of Brazil, their performances impressed the locals of Sao Paulo so much that they formed their own club called Corinthians Paulista in their honour, which has now become one of the best supported and most successful clubs in Brazilian football. They returned to Brazil in 1988, where they faced the Brazilian greats Socrates and Rivellino. Although Corinthian Casuals are not the global giants like many teams are today, many Brazilian fans from Sao Paulo make the endeavouring pilgrimage to King George's Stadium to cheer on the English amateurs who inspired the founding of their club, painting the perfect picture of what it truly means to be a fan. Corinthian Casuals was a breath of fresh air for the both of us.
We felt that the club's history, ethics, their community, and their romantic link with Brazil, that they were the right club to work with. So we met up with them.
Almost every game you'll get Brazilians. You'll have people come over literally they'll come to visit London, but in that meantime they'll make the pilgrimage to here. We've had people that have obviously seen we have a fixture and have come straight from the airport with their luggage to the game because they didn't want to miss it.
People in tears, just turning up and they're overcome by being at the Corinthian Casuals. And we don't always know if they're aware that we only moved here in 1988. And so it's not the place where their club is born. But it may not be that. It may just be the connection, the spirit is here, so that's what matters.
Well, the ex-president of the Corinthians said that to us when we were in Brazil. He said, I built this wonderful stadium, as he said, and all this, but he goes, it doesn't have anywhere near the spirit of your King George's Arena, which he had visited. And he meant it, because he was literally crying when talking about it. And you just think they go on the pitch and it's like us going on Wembley's turf.
Yeah.
So to them we've made it, and when you discover how passionate Brazilians are about their football, it's incredible.
Our design proposal was to connect their large fan base in Brazil with the ground in Kingston that they play in.
Our plan is to create a virtual chant from the fans in Brazil recorded remotely on their individual phones.
You can imagine it going well as the teams line up before the game, because we don't have like the Champions League or Premier League anthem.
Right, yeah.
But the players do still come out and stand either side of the ref in a row before kickoff here. And our fans are quite noisy, and they're very sort of southwest London sounding. So the one time where perhaps they're not quite ready to do that is then, because they walk around to whichever goal we're shooting towards, and it takes them 5 minutes to assemble, and then they get going. And there's always this kind of slight vacuum as the players walk onto the pitch,
very true.
and they come out right where the speaker is. This is a good way of doing something new for them as well, for those fans.
And the nice thing is it's not monetising it either, because one of the things we've always found with Brazilian fans is they don't have a lot of money typically, and as soon as you try and start to monetise something, they're not that interested at all.
And for the consideration of internet and mobile accessibility, we felt a web app was the best platform to put it on.
Are there any like mainstay Brazilian chants which are just...
Yeah. So
I'll let you go.
I can't recite them all. There's a few. There's ones that the ones the fans sing behind the goal is really easy, because it's just Timão over and over. It's like Timão, There's what's called the fans have forgotten this one, but when we had gone to Brazil, they picked this up and they seem to have forgotten it. But it's one called Parapa, and then you all dance in a line, and you've got all the lines like intermerging like that. And then there's, I don't know exactly lyrics, but it's Aqui temos um bando de loco aqui a Corinthians. And it's like that, and it's quite a big thing.
Quite a nice idea. I definitely think Brazilians don't get their voices heard here unless they come at the moment. So
Yeah, I mean, we're at the stage now where we've done all our research, we've done all those concepts, and we're ready to start making. And we'd love to be able to collaborate with you guys and be able to experiment and get it actually functioning. And
absolutely
the
great.
Students would happily just do it as a voluntary thing, just to connect the fans. The objective of collecting these virtual chants is to archive them for Corinthians, so that we build and continue their shared history and community with their Brazilian counterparts. And it is in the sharing of this history that we find the essence of the football fan.
The problem we ran into when developing the chants was that they were all out of time, so we needed some sort of cue.
In response to this problem, we started to research into virtual choirs and how they solve their timing issues for their songs. So we decided to use the same system they did by having a dub where they could listen to the chant at the same time, therefore keeping it in time.
So we used this chant as a test to see how well our web app would work. After putting it out there, we got some responses which we're able to compile into a singular chant and play it in the Corinthian Casuals football ground.
Welcome to Corinthian Casuals football ground.
Thank you so much. This is the key and what I just pay back to people. They haven't come back to their drinks, so I'm just doing it briefly. Thank you so much, Ryan. Okay.
Thank you. We hope this is the first of many that can be recorded and archived for Corinthians to use on a later basis.
Do you like the idea of having the fans from Brazil engaging with the game?
One of the other things is the far side over there is the TV tower for Brazilian TV. So obviously if they're going to be showing the game in Brazil, then you really want some Brazilian chanting to add to it, don't you?
Whilst the chant is being played in the ground, we record it and send it back to Sao Paulo.
We hope that when the Brazilian fans hear themselves being played in the ground, that they feel more connected with the game and with the club.
We've worked on this project throughout the COVID restrictions and lockdowns. It's been a test as we've practiced communicating differently, but that in a way has helped us on remote communication.
But we've enjoyed working together and feel our design practices complement each other, and in doing so we've created our own collaborative practice which we hope to take forward in the future. Our interdisciplinary design practice was crucial in tackling this project. Our vast skill set and available tools allowed us to subvert ourselves in the real world without limitation.
It's enabled us to be confident in attempting any task and adapt to any situation we found ourselves in, as we can gather the necessary expertise. By using all forms of available design, we could holistically understand our field and reflect appropriately throughout our journey.
Our participation stops where the physical live event ends. Player number 12 aims to provide an infinite extension of presence as we want to re-establish how the live event is mediated.
By designing a more inclusive network of connectivity, we hope to build a new culture of how football is experienced, and in doing so, create a necessary and contemporary form of community.
In the short existence of player number 12, we managed to build a broad network of people. This network has been influential in our practice to elevate our understanding of the culture and has granted us opportunities to take action in the territory that we're passionate about.
We hope our relationship with Corinthian Casuals furthers and aims to reach out to other football clubs in order to help them use design as a vehicle to connect with their fans and improve their experiences.
Player number 12 doesn't stop with us. It's a project that aims to inspire others to take action and to reconnect with why they fell in love with the game. It's for everyone that loves football and wants to push football fan culture in the right direction.
I can certainly see why you're looking into doing what you're doing, and I think it's just interesting to address the changing way of how people are following sport from home and also in the stadiums as well. So yeah, I definitely think it's something we could aim to try and bring together as a piece of TV.